Hey everybody, GVB here, otherwise known as Greg Van Borssum. Fight choreographer of Mad Max Fury Road, martial artist for over 40 years, and I've been a weapons specialist in various areas including the pistols and firearms industry. I want to bring you some of my takes on the martial arts and what I think needs to happen with some of the martial arts these days that have gotten a bit away from what the true heritage was and how the true functionality came to play. And it goes right down to the smallest things. When we're studying the martial arts, we tend to want to do all the jumping, spinning kicks and the flashy stuff when the fundamentals are what win in combat. And I want to take you bit by bit through pieces as we go along these episodes on how to make your martial arts maybe a little different, a little more functional, and maybe find the essence of what we're searching for in our training. Let's do it. So I want to start off with the Shuto Uke. And now the Shuto is almost like a knife hand strike, but it's not just Uke. Uke means to accept or to block. It isn't just that, it's also a striking motion. But we have to go back a step further in this to find out how the fundamentals come to play. The thing I find these days we don't do in the martial arts, we don't reverse engineer. And I think we need to start from the fingertips and work down to the feet. Because when we control the ground, we own the knees, the hips, the koshi around the waist here, we can bring the movement into play from the whole core of the body and make it truly functional. Now the fundamentals of this are small, intricate things, but they matter. Little things like bringing the thumb in like this movement here, this is rigid and straight. So when I teach all my techniques to my students, my forearm, no matter what I'm doing, is like a bowling pin. The muscles here are strong, but everything else is supple and movable. So when I move, it happens quite flowingly and freely. But there's nothing I dislike to see more than people with hands like this, and they tense them up as they punch or when they do their technique. What it is, I call that false speed and false strength. Because if you are doing a technique like this and your opponent moves in, that's how you break a wrist. So when we do our techniques, fingers open, fingers shut, doesn't matter if they're strong and they've got intent, then they're going to be functional and they won't get damaged. So when we're in a situation where we need strength, the further things go away from our body, the weaker they are. So we need to draw things in. So to make a Shuto strong, truly strong, we have to find the circles and we have to keep it here, internalized. So we bring our hand across here like this, thumb and fingers and hands strong. It then rolls up to here because it has to go across this way and then out. Now the rotation happens last second here because it gives you that extra speed and distance for very little effort, okay? So this is how we break it down. So movement 1 comes across to here, this one here. Movement 2, here, 3, here. Rotates out and is strong, just past 90 degrees. When we come around, we do the movement very similar to slapping someone on the backside, here. So we do that, 1, 2, 3, and that's our movement there. 1, 3, and then we take the edge off. Now these movements work, of course, as circles, these ways, like the Shuto. Done it like this, it becomes a circle like this. Now what it's for, the Shuto happens in 2 circular motions. So when we do a Shuto, I don't believe it's this. I think we're in turn into trying to wrap something up. So as we move in on an opponent, we're wrapping. Here we block and we wrap and we bring into here, into the body. So that's where it's strong, and then we strike. I don't think the angle of the Shuto should be like this. I think it should be like this because it's to strike towards the neck. The angle of the neck is through there, okay? That's what I feel it should be. Now if you see it from the front here, if I turn to here, you look at the movement, it goes like this, around, and this is coming up and goes through, like this. Now this motion here is the catching motion. It wraps up someone's arm and pins them in and locks them in here, but this one strikes them to there. And the reason when we step through in this, we don't step in a straight line, is we don't want to be directly in front of our opponent. We want to be slightly on angle, so it's getting out of their power zone. So that if their power is traveling towards us, we redirect and we can strike from there. There's the martial and there's the art, and we can't put one over the other because the chances of you getting into fight situations, especially as you get older, lessen and lessen and lessen to quite a point. We have to find the beauty in the art for the motion. So the kata matters and how we find the circles matters. So that's what we're searching for. So of course when we do our Shuto Uke, here we have our intent, but at the same time you've got to find the beauty in the circles when we move. So we find our beauty. So it's not just about hard hits all the time. Through my experience in my weight training, and I went right through to Mr Universe when I was in my 20s. I competed at 3 Mr Universes at professional level. This in your knee joints, your elbows, your shoulders, if you go rigidly solid with all your smashing movements all the time, you will wear out. Your joints will not last, okay? And you'll want them to last, trust me. I'm 50 now, I know what the pain feels like when things don't work so well from overuse. Take care of your joints. So if you can learn to find the circular motions before it's too rigid, then you're going to save yourself a lot of heartache, and you're also going to give yourself longevity. So practice the circular motions of the Shuto. We want to get these beautiful motions here. So this slapping motion up here, coming up and over. It's used not just as a strike, but also as a removal of someone's hand. If someone's here grabbing, your arm comes up and takes them off. And you have to use your core with this. So when we do our and when we do this movement here, the core comes into play. Because if you're up against someone who's really strong and someone who doesn't want to be moved, you're not going to move them with your arm. Okay? It will not work. So I see these martial artists doing all this stuff. It doesn't functionally work. You got to bring it into the body here, and your body rotates. Look at my arm. It's not doing much at all. My arm is doing very little here. My body is doing the power turning. Boom, here. And that's where the core comes out. And that's what makes the movement strong. That's what makes it functional for the next thing we do. So we must understand that the core is everything, from the ground up and up down. So we need to reverse engineer our movements. Work out where the power has to end up, and then come back to find out what this has to do, what this has to do, how this ties into this, how this ties into your core, how this ties into the knees, down to the ankles, down to the toes and the heels, arch of the foot into the floor. And if you can do that, start thinking a little bit more deeply about your technique instead of being superficial, because many people practice on the surface but they don't internalize it to try and find those small things. They miss some of the journey. I want you to find the journey, because this martial arts journey is a wonderful journey and it's a lifelong journey. And if you can do it right, you'll do it forever. Trust me on that one. All right, have a great week. I'll see you next week with some more techniques. Enjoy the time. Look forward to seeing you then. GVB, out.